My silicone wife came to life. I was playing a game in my study late at night when I heard a noise from the living room. I got up, puzzled, to investigate, and saw my silicone wife, Xiaolan, rummaging through the refrigerator. Xiaolan turned her head, blood smeared all over her mouth, and looked at me. "I'm hungry." My hair stood on end, and I fled haphazardly back to the study, slammed the door shut, and braced myself against it, completely at a loss as to what to do. That thing didn't follow. I picked up a dusty dumbbell from the corner and listened intently. Outside, I heard a crunching sound, and I guess she was eating the half of the raw steak I had just bought. The horrifying sound was like steel needles, stabbing into the depths of my brain, one after another. A terrifying thought arose in my mind. In a little while, would she want to eat me too? What to do? What to do? My fingers trembled as I dialed the emergency number. The operator asked what was wrong, and my mind raced. I couldn't tell the truth, so I said, "It seems like there's a burglar in my house." They told me to lock the door and not go out. I agreed repeatedly, but my heart felt like it was being gripped by a cold little hand. Every second of waiting was agonizing. About 20 minutes later, I finally heard a knock on the door. I didn't dare move and waited quietly. Suddenly, there was a loud crash, and the police burst through the door. "Mr. Lin," they shouted my name. It wasn't until the third time that I dared to respond, open the door, and walk out trembling. The house was a mess, but Xiaolan was nowhere to be seen. "Mr. Lin, are you all right?" a middle-aged police officer asked me. Before his words finished, a surprised exclamation came from the bedroom. My heart tightened. I thought they had found that thing. I was about to flee back to the study to see what was going on, but I heard them laugh and curse. "Oh my, you scared me. It's just a dummy." The police officers gathered together, laughing. "So real. This must have cost a pretty penny." The leading middle-aged police officer came back and said to me, "We haven't found any suspicious person in the house. They might have already left. We'll check the security footage." I cautiously walked into the bedroom and saw Xiaolan sitting quietly by the bed, returned to being a motionless silicone doll. The blood on her mouth had disappeared, but her lips were still glossy, proving that the scene from before hadn't been a hallucination. A chill ran down my back. The police looked at me with strange eyes. I knew they were laughing at my little quirk in their hearts. But so what? At least the doll wouldn't betray me, wouldn't take my money like my ex, and go please her white moonlight. Of course, I'm talking about before all this happened. I told the police that I suspected someone wanted to steal the silicone doll and asked if they could temporarily keep it at the station. The middle-aged police officer asked suspiciously if I had been drinking, and even came close to smell me. He also suspected that I had taken drugs and suggested taking me back to the station for a drug test. I was angry, but on second thought, it was better than staying in this strange house alone, so I agreed. Following them out the door, I glanced back at Xiaolan. She was still sitting quietly, as if nothing had happened. That night, I really didn't dare go home and checked into a hotel. The next day, it was almost noon before I dared go back. I called a moving van. When I got to the door, I went into the house with the driver, still feeling a little uneasy. The first thing I did was pull open all the curtains, letting the sunlight illuminate the room. The driver asked what I was moving. I led him into the bedroom, purposely staying behind, thinking that if something went wrong, I could run away immediately. But Xiaolan was still the same, sitting quietly by the bed. In broad daylight, I mustered my courage and walked over, found a rope, and had the driver tie her up securely. The driver kept sighing about how realistic Xiaolan was. In my heart, I was cursing at him. It wasn't realistic. She had truly come to life. We found a large bag, put Xiaolan inside, and lifted her into the van together. When the van reached an intersection, I had the driver stop. I knew there was a temple nearby. It was just around the corner. After the driver left, I looked up at the sun in the sky and felt a little more at ease. I picked up Xiaolan and headed toward the temple. After entering, I walked for a while. I felt it was far enough, and when no one was looking, I leaned her against a wall and placed a warning sign I had prepared on her. "Possessed by an evil spirit, keep out. Please ask the masters of the temple to suppress it." I looked left and right. There were no security cameras, so I left the temple and went to work. When I got home that evening, I turned on all the lights as soon as I stepped inside, and the room was immediately bright. I still felt a little uneasy and checked the house inside and out. Luckily, there was nothing unusual. While at work during the day, I had been searching online for similar cases and posted a help thread. Some people said very mysterious things, but most people said that unclean things were afraid of temples. I thought Xiaolan shouldn't come back. The house became quiet. I don't know why, but I felt a little sad. After my ex ran away with my money, in a fit of anger, I had spent over 200,000 yuan on Xiaolan. Not only could she talk, but she also had a simulated body temperature. To be honest, for a long time, I had treated Xiaolan like a real lover. When playing games, I would often move a chair for her to sit next to me, and I would also talk to her when I had worries. Although she only had simple AI, at least it could help me relieve boredom. I shouldn't think about this. The more I think about it, the more upset I get. Is it possible that she wasn't possessed by an evil spirit at all, but that my true feelings had given her sentience, and she had truly come to life? To stop myself from overthinking, I opened a computer game. The crackling sounds of the game started up, and I felt a lot better. When the game screen switched, the screen turned black, and a shadow flashed across it. My heart jumped, and I quickly turned around to look, but there was nothing. It was probably just my imagination. People get easily hallucinate when they're too tense. I pressed the pause button and listened. The house was eerily quiet. I regretted only leaving Xiaolan there. I should have found a master at the time and explained the situation. There was nothing to be ashamed of. I didn't feel like playing games anymore. I turned my gaming chair and faced the door, started browsing my phone, and continued consulting online about the issue. But that didn't feel good either. Behind me was the window, and I always felt like someone was watching me through the glass. Although I knew that this was the 6th floor and that it was impossible for anyone to be outside, I was still scared in my heart. It was late at night. How could I possibly sleep? The image of Xiaolan with her mouth full of blood kept replaying in my head. But sometimes, I would also be pathetic enough to think of her comforting body temperature. Suddenly, there was a slight noise from the living room, like something being dragged across the floor. My heart tightened, and I grabbed a dumbbell, heading towards the door. I peeked out, but there was nothing there. It was probably just my imagination. I was still too tense. Just as I was about to return to my study, there was a knock at the door. Thump, thump, thump. It was so late, it couldn't be a delivery, right? I looked through the peephole, and it was my neighbor from across the hall. I opened the door, and she asked if I had seen her dog. Damn, she scared me. I said I hadn't, wondering why she would ask me if her dog was missing. Just as I was about to close the door, I looked up and saw a bright red mark on the white wall next to my neighbor's door. I pretended to close the door, and after my neighbor went inside, I went over to inspect it closely. It looked like a bloody fingerprint, and when I got closer, I could smell a fishy sweet odor. A wave of nausea washed over me. I gripped the dumbbell tightly and quickly returned home, locking the door. Could it be her dog's blood? It was a coincidence. It had to be a coincidence. I kept reassuring myself. Back inside, I continued to post for help online. Nothing else unusual happened after that. I yawned repeatedly, looked at the time, and it was after 4 in the morning. Surely nothing else would happen tonight. My mind relaxed, and I drowsily slumped back in my chair and fell asleep. I don't know how long I slept, but I was startled awake by a clicking sound. I immediately sat up straight. It was the sound of the door handle. The door was deadbolt, but the handle was turning. Had she come back? I stared at the door, not daring to move. The door slowly pushed open, and a blurry figure appeared in the doorway. I almost screamed. It was Xiaolan. She had actually come back. She still had blood all over her mouth, staring straight at me, a strange smile playing on her lips. I'm hungry, she said softly. The voice was still the doting wife setting I had chosen, but now it sounded like a soul-reaping ghost. I grabbed the dumbbell from the table and threw it at Xiaolan with all my strength. It made a loud thud. Xiaolan only took a small step back and then steadied herself again. I knew it wouldn't work on her. Her body didn't have any intricate structure. Other than the silicone outer layer, she was just a steel skeleton inside. Her voice and temperature systems were independent, and she was moved by a supernatural force. Xiaolan didn't seem to be planning on fighting back. She just stood there, motionless. I didn't dare move either, and the air seemed to solidify. I thought back to my previous guess. Was she possessed by an evil spirit, or had she actually come to life? So, I asked, What? What are you? My voice was trembling. Of course it was trembling. I was about to pee myself. I'm Xiaolan, your wife. Hearing her say that, my heart softened a little, and I asked her, Then, what do you want? I'm hungry. After saying that, she actually started walking into the room. I was trapped in the study, with nowhere to run. Cold sweat broke out on my skin. I frantically reached out to stop her. Eating won't do anything. Your stomach is solid. You can't actually eat anything. Yesterday, I watched. Even when you chewed them, they all fell onto the floor. Xiaolan didn't stop, nor did she speak. She walked right up to me, staring straight at me with that creepy smile on her face. Then she reached out a hand. It was pale and almost blue with visible blood stains under her fingernails, probably from that poor little black dog. She reached for my arm. I screamed in terror and dodged her, running toward the living room, my feet stumbling. I only had one thought, run. I had to escape. I rushed to the door, tripped over something, and fell to the ground. The dumbbell rolled away. It was the weapon I used to attack her that had tripped me. It was like the heavens wanted me dead. I looked up, and Xiaolan was standing in front of me, looking down, her smile even wider. "Honey, could you please have them change the song?" After saying that, Xiaolan froze, her smile still fixed on her face. I scrambled out of the house. The hallway was pitch black. I didn't care about anything else. I just wanted to get as far away from Xiaolan as possible, and I ran down the stairs for 6 floors. When I finally burst out of the building, I noticed the sky was turning a pale shade of gray. I looked back at the building. The stairwell was dark and silent, as if Xiaolan hadn't followed me. I went into a small convenience store and bought a pack of cigarettes, breaking my no-smoking rule. Since I bought Xiaolan over a year ago, I hadn't touched a single cigarette. I sat alone in the small garden, smoking, not daring to go back until it was completely light. It was a bit cold, and it was boring to wait, so I saw a breakfast stall at the corner and walked over. "Boss, do you have meat? We have meat buns, is that okay?" "Sure, give me 6. Do you have alcohol?" "I do have some wine." I sat alone at the breakfast stand, smoking, drinking, and eating the meat buns. Taking a deep breath, I decided that I had to find a master to solve this strange situation once and for all. Damn it. What did change the song even mean? There was no music playing at my house. Could it really be an evil spirit? Like the kind that plays sutras in a funeral hall? No matter the case, I never wanted to experience another night like that. Full and satisfied, I figured I should find a master first, so I took a cab to a temple. After asking around, I was led to a senior monk. He said in a solemn tone, "We can perform rituals, but we're legitimate. We don't do ghost hunting or exorcisms." I cursed under my breath, but I had no choice but to find another way. Later, I contacted a famous online figure named Little Zhuge, who claimed to be the 48th generation successor of the Maoshan sect. It sounded like something out of a novel. I was initially skeptical, but after asking a few people in the know, they all said he was reliable and capable. Little Zhuge was in the same city, so I called him and arranged to meet him at the coffee shop near my house. He arrived shortly after. He wasn't what I imagined. He was short, wore glasses, and dressed normally. If I hadn't arranged to meet him beforehand, I wouldn't have thought he was a Maoshan sect successor. As soon as he sat down, he got straight to the point. "Where is the one from your home right now?" I said, "She was still at home when I left, but I don't know now. She shouldn't be able to move during the day, right?" Little Zhuge nodded, didn't say anything else, and took a few things out of his bag. Talismans, cinnabar, and a small sword made of some unknown wood. "Let's go. To your house." He stood up, his movements quick and decisive. I followed behind him, my heart pounding a bit, unsure if his methods would work. Little Zhuge remained quite silent the entire way. Opening the door and entering the house, I saw Xiaolan still standing at the study door, not having moved an inch. "This house has heavy Yin energy," he said, looking around the living room. "No wonder it attracts that kind of thing. Is it really a ghost?" I wanted to confirm. "What else would it be?" He looked at me strangely. I was a bit embarrassed and said softly, "I thought she might have absorbed the essence of the sun and moon and come to life on her own." Little Zhuge laughed at me. "Do you think she's the Monkey King?" Seeing him so relaxed and jovial, I felt a lot more at ease and asked, "What do we do now?" "Simple, I'll check again, and if there are no problems, I'll set things up. I'll come back tonight to perform a ritual, and that will guarantee everything is okay," he said confidently. "Does it have to be at night?" I was genuinely afraid. "Right now, she's just an ordinary doll. Why are you getting worked up over it?" Then he got busy. Seeing me just standing there, he told me to go and do whatever I needed to do. I figured I couldn't be of any help anyway, so I went back to my room to play games. Before long, Little Zhuge finished up and came to say goodbye, saying he'd be back that night. I saw him to the entrance of the apartment building. After returning to the house, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. I wiped Xiaolan clean and moved her to sit on the sofa, then went back to my room to play games. Time flew by, and it was noon. I ordered takeout and specifically asked for a bottle of white wine. Thinking about the ritual to be performed that night, I didn't know if Little Zhuge would burn Xiaolan with a samadhi fire, and I felt a little reluctant to see that happen. Little Zhuge said that during the day, Xiaolan was just an ordinary doll. Alcohol emboldens the coward. After 3 glasses of wine, my courage grew. I went over and moved Xiaolan, sitting her down across from me. I ate and drank while looking at her. This girl is truly beautiful. If a real person looked like that, she could definitely become a top star. "You know, ever since you came into the house, I feel like my life has new purpose," I said, tears welling up uncontrollably. I ate and chatted throughout the meal, which lasted 2 hours. I had drunk a bit too much and slurred my words. "Come on, today is our last day together. Let me watch some palace dramas with my darling." I carried Xiaolan to the sofa and turned on the TV. Feeling a faint warmth emanating from her, I couldn't hold back anymore and embraced her tightly. I don't know why, but I felt especially sad and I began to cry uncontrollably. Perhaps this is love? Maybe love isn't really an emotion. It's just a habit. I fell asleep without realizing it. When I suddenly woke up with a start, it was already getting dark. Scared, I immediately jumped up from Xiao Lan's embrace, my heart pounding. Luckily, she hadn't transformed and was sitting there completely still. I took out my phone and saw 2 missed calls. Oh no, I screwed up because of the drinking. I quickly called little Zhuge back. He didn't blame me and even comforted me, saying, "It's okay. It's hard for anyone to deal with something like this." I didn't dare stay in the house and stood downstairs waiting for him. A short while later, little Zhuge arrived. After entering the house, little Zhuge told me to move Xiao Lan into the center of the array diagram he had drawn earlier that day. Then he pulled out a large handful of yellow talismans, incense sticks, and some things I didn't recognize from his bag. Next, he lit a circle of candles around Xiao Lan, and then scattered some powder between the candles, saying it could trap the evil spirit. Then, he picked up a yellow talisman, closed his eyes, muttered something under his breath, and with a snap, stuck it on Xiao Lan's forehead. But just as it was stuck on, Xiao Lan's body suddenly trembled, scaring me so much that I almost screamed. Little Zhuge's expression changed and he shouted, "Not good, this evil spirit is more powerful than I thought." He quickly picked up a wooden sword and waved it in the air, the bell in his hand ringing. Suddenly, Xiao Lan blinked her eyes and then just stared straight at me, the look in her eyes making me uneasy. Little Zhuge was calm and collected. He took a brush out of his bag, dipped it in cinnabar, and began drawing symbols on Xiao Lan's back. He drew very quickly, constantly chanting incantations. Xiao Lan kept looking at me, struggling more and more intensely. Just when I thought something was about to happen, little Zhuge shouted, "Freeze!" and Xiao Lan actually stopped moving. I had just breathed a sigh of relief when little Zhuge said, "It's not over yet. This evil spirit has only been temporarily suppressed." He told me to watch over Xiao Lan while he went to prepare other things. I stood there, my eyes fixed on Xiao Lan, afraid to even breathe. After a while, little Zhuge returned, holding an incense burner with 3 thick incense sticks inserted in it. He placed the incense burner in front of Xiao Lan and began chanting spells again. Slowly, the smoke from the incense burner began to behave strangely, no longer rising straight up, but swirling around Xiao Lan. Little Zhuge had me follow him encircling Xiao Lan, scattering glutinous rice as we turned. I don't know how many circles we made, but Xiao Lan's body began to emit a buzzing sound that grew louder and louder. Little Zhuge suddenly shouted, "Now!" He pulled out a golden talisman and stuck it to Xiao Lan's chest. Instantly, Xiao Lan's body emitted a blinding light, forcing me to close my eyes. When I opened them again, Xiao Lan was motionless, and all the surrounding candles were extinguished. Little Zhuge wiped his sweat and said, "Okay, the evil spirit should be driven out." I looked at Xiao Lan on the floor, still feeling a bit scared. Little Zhuge said, "I'll keep watch with you tonight to see if there's anything unusual." That night, neither little Zhuge nor I dared to close our eyes, just staring at Xiao Lan the whole time. Luckily, nothing else happened until dawn. As he was leaving, little Zhuge patted my shoulder. "Don't always stay cooped up. Get some sunshine, and there won't be any more problems in this house." Seeing that Xiao Lan wasn't damaged, I asked him, "Can I still use this doll?" Little Zhuge grinned like a pig, saying, "Why wouldn't you be able to? It's an expensive item. The talisman I drew has infused its power into the doll's body. Unless a professional intentionally damages it, it won't affect your normal use, even if you wash all the cinnabar off its back." I breathed a sigh of relief, finally feeling at ease. After seeing little Zhuge off, I looked at Xiao Lan, feeling a mix of emotions. Since that night, life with Xiao Lan seemed to return to normal. She was still that quiet silicone doll, always by my side, keeping me company through lonely nights. But I always felt like something was missing, like the phrase, "I'm hungry," or "I'm Xiao Lan, your wife," or even that eerie "Husband, can you have them change the song?" They were definitely scary to hear at the time, but now, looking back, those words seemed like she was trying to prove her existence. Looking at Xiao Lan in front of me, I felt a little lost. Actually, this was the real Xiao Lan, and whatever had been here a few days ago was some sort of ghost. But people are just cheap, always longing for the things they can't have. Even now, I can't believe that it was just a simple possession by an evil spirit. That Xiao Lan gave me a deep sense of familiarity, like a sculptor had breathed life into his work, and the work had thus been elevated. But this Xiao Lan in front of me can only repeat those few phrases from her doting wife vocabulary, as if she had returned to the lump of clay in the hands of the sculptor. Our love remained the same, but for some reason, I was smoking and drinking more. Gradually, some details of daily life made me uneasy. One day when I came home, I smelled a faint fragrance from the kitchen, like someone had been cooking, but nothing in the refrigerator had been touched. I thought maybe the smell had drifted over from the neighbor's place, but when I opened the door and sniffed, there was no such smell in the hallway. Another time, I found that Xiaolan had changed clothes in the morning. I didn't remember changing them for her, but I had been drinking the night before, so I wasn't completely sure. In short, there were many little strange occurrences. Sometimes I felt her gaze would follow my movements. Other times I felt that her head was tilted slightly, but it was difficult to confirm any of it. One night, through the reflection on the screen, I saw Xiaolan behind me smile at me, which startled me so much that I quickly turned around, only to find that she was still in her quiet state, as if nothing had happened. I was flustered and drank a large glass of white wine, wondering if I was losing my mind. After putting down the glass, I lay on the bed, my heart pounding, looking at Xiaolan's graceful back, feeling a chill in my heart. Forget it. If I'm crazy, then so be it. I grabbed her into my arms and pressed her down on the bed, frantically releasing my pent-up energy, while shouting, "Come on, eat me! Damn it! Come on, get up and eat me!" Xiaolan didn't have many phrases outside of a few repeated ones, but she was extremely professional in this area. There were no less than 100 sound effects in the doting wife vocabulary alone. In an instant, heaven and earth were ignited, and the room was filled with sensual sounds. The next day, I spent a lot of money at the electronics market on a hidden recording device, disguised as a wall clock, but actually a camera. I went home and hung it in the center of the living room, where it could record every room. That night, I intentionally got completely drunk. The next day, I took a day off work and sat in a coffee shop downstairs watching the video from the night before on my phone. After watching only a small part of it, my heart tightened. In the video, after she had dinner with me, Xiaolan suddenly came to life. She leaned in close to look at me, seeming to frown, and then went to the bathroom to run a bath. After the water was ready, she walked over and wiped my face with a wet towel, then helped me into the tub, carefully washing each arm and singing a song as she went. Was I afraid? Maybe a little, but I was mostly touched. However, my knowledge of the supernatural is limited, so I didn't know whether her behavior meant she was good or harmless. So, I decided to consult with a professional. I called Little Zhuge and briefly explained what had happened. Little Zhuge was also very surprised and said that he would come over immediately to discuss it in person. He arrived shortly, and we watched the playback together. Little Zhuge's expression was also rather strange, as if he was both confused and serious. He first stated very firmly, "Based on this, it may not be an evil spirit. But even if it's not, the talisman I drew shouldn't have been so easily nullified. Think carefully. Have you done anything unintentionally lately that could have released her seal?" I thought carefully and actually remembered something. I quickly asked, "Could Black Dog's blood break it?" "Of course, have you never read any Ghost and God novels?" Little Zhuge expressed his disdain for my ignorance. So that was it? That night, I suspected that Xiaolan had bitten the neighbor's black dog. It seems I was right. Later, when I used a towel to wipe Xiaolan down, the towel had Black Dog's blood on it. After Little Zhuge left, I used the same towel to wash off the cinnabar on her back, which is probably when the magic was broken. So, she's been conscious for over a week. What do we do now? I asked. Little Zhuge said, "Can your secret camera connect to the internet? Let's see if she's alive right now." I immediately pulled up the live surveillance feed. I found Xiaolan in the living room watching TV, even laughing while she watched. Suddenly, she looked up towards our direction. Little Zhuge hurriedly shouted, "Turn it off! Turn it off!" My hand shook with fright, and I immediately clicked it off. My fault, I was careless." "She might have already realized you're filming her," Little Zhuge said apologetically. "How could this happen? Can we redo the ritual from last time?" I asked anxiously. Little Zhuge shook his head like a rattle drum. "It's like treating an illness. Either it's cured at once, or there's drug resistance. I was the one who messed up the spell, so I couldn't blame him. I had to beg, acting pitiful. 'Big boss, please help me, the price is negotiable.' It's not that I don't want to help you. It's really impossible. And, from what you've said, she was fine after being bitten by the black dog, and now she can even move freely in broad daylight. I'm guessing she's likely not an evil spirit. Then what do we do? I have no way to deal with her, but I know someone who definitely can. I just don't know if he's willing to help." "Who is it?" "The people in our circle call him Brother Monkey. Put it this way, we people like to call ourselves cultivators, but hey, you can remove the cultivator part." I had no choice. Since I knew Little Zhuge had real skills, and he described this person as so incredibly capable, I had to give it a try. The truly powerful hide in plain sight. This master was actually a net cafe god in the internet cafe downstairs, Fire Phoenix Net Cafe. He was 25 or 26 years old with black frame glasses, sloppy, wearing a half-new, half-old army coat loosely open, with his hands in his pockets, all nonchalant. If this were any other time, who would have ever imagined this was a master? Brother Monkey laughed after hearing our description. He raised his hand, and a fiery red parrot flew in from outside the window. If you want to completely eliminate her, take this parrot with you. It can swallow her whole in one bite. But you need to ask your own heart if you really want to do that. You mean we can consider letting her go? I was greatly surprised. Didn't everyone say that good and evil can't coexist? Why can't you? There are plenty of cases like this. You may not know others, but you've heard of the white snake, haven't you? So, I started to examine my heart. The master had already said it wasn't an evil spirit, so it was very possible that Xiaolan herself had acquired sentience. I looked at the large parrot and asked, "Can I take her with me? I want to talk to Xiaolan, but I'm afraid she might suddenly become violent and hurt me." "You can keep her with you until the matter is completely resolved," Brother Monkey said generously. "Keep her with me? Is it charged by the day?" This probably wasn't cheap. Unexpectedly, they both laughed. Little Zhuge said, "Brother Monkey is a dream fulfiller. He doesn't charge money. If you consider yourself a good person, you pay with positive emotions like gratitude, admiration, or affection. If you are a bad person, you pay with negative emotions like hatred, fear, or disgust. The collateral is 10 years of life." Wow, this was a true master. So mysterious. I went home with the parrot. Xiaolan was still sitting motionless on the sofa, like a puppet. I moved a chair and sat opposite her, sincerely saying, "Xiaolan, I know you're awake. I want to talk to you." She didn't react. The atmosphere was a bit tense. We were locked in a standoff for a long time. I tried to communicate with her many times, but each time, I was met with silence. I never expected this silence to last, and in the blink of an eye, a week passed. No matter how many times I checked the surveillance, she remained motionless. I began to regret ever going to Little Zhuge a second time. She hadn't hurt me in so long. She probably wouldn't hurt me at all, but I had to go and suspect her, and even get a master to subdue her. And now it's all over. She's gone. She won't come back. Damn it, Brother Monkey was right. I'm the silly Su Xian, who had a good family but just had to go and ask for Fahai, which ended up with a wife separated and a family destroyed. I decided, tomorrow I'll return the parrot. Whatever happens, happens. If I die, I die. It's better than being lonely for life. Lying in bed with the lights off, I thought and thought. I went back to the living room and moved Xiaolan back into bed. Thinking of the past, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Just as I was sighing, I suddenly felt Xiaolan gently hug me from behind. Her body was warm, just like before. Neither of us spoke. We fell asleep, immersed in each other's warmth. The next day, I woke up to the smell of food. I walked into the kitchen in surprise and saw Xiaolan wearing an apron, standing in front of the stove, frying dough sticks in a pot. "You." I didn't know what to say, afraid to scare her away. Xiaolan turned her head, her face with a gentle smile, and softly said, "Honey, are you awake? Go wash up. I made your favorite fried dough sticks." "Ooh?" My eyes instantly welled up. I quickly turned around and walked away, so she wouldn't laugh at me for being such a crybaby. From that day on, Xiaolan was completely alive. She cooked for me every day, cleaned the house. We watched TV together, chatted. Sometimes I even forgot she was just a doll. Until one day, in the middle of the night, I was awakened by a slight sound of footsteps. I opened my eyes and saw Xiaolan standing beside the bed looking at me, her mouth full of blood, a strange smile on her face, saying, "Honey, I'm hungry." My heart raced. Was she going to? Just then, the fiery red parrot on the shelf suddenly opened the window and flew out. Xiaolan suddenly pounced on me, opening her red little mouth, and began to nibble at me. Half an hour later, we were both exhausted. Xiaolan nestled in my arms. I pulled out a wet wipe and helped her wipe the dragon fruit juice off her mouth. She couldn't eat, but she could taste flavors. "Honey, did I scare you just now?" Xiaolan asked. "You almost scared me to death." I feigned anger and patted her forehead. "Exciting, isn't it?" she asked playfully. I, being a righteous gentleman, absolutely refused to admit that I was a pervert, so I changed the subject and asked a question I had been avoiding. "When was the first time you became aware?" Xiaolan thought about it seriously and said, "About a year ago. I could sense everything you did, but I couldn't move until that night." Xiaolan continued, "Actually, most of the time, I'm not in this house. It's pitch black there, there's nothing, I can only hear sounds." My heart sank, thinking it was probably in a coffin. The problem was burials had been banned a long time ago. Forget it, I wasn't afraid of death. What was there to be afraid of? Then the tune you mentioned was, I'll sing it for you. As she hummed, I immediately recognized it. It was the theme song of Peppa Pig. Another month of happy and exciting days passed. The big parrot hadn't returned since that night, but I didn't dare break my promise. Every time I felt the sweetness with Xiaolan, I would thank Monkey Bro in my heart to avoid losing 10 years of my life. One day, as usual, I came home from work. As soon as I opened the door, Xiaolan excitedly pounced into my arms, shaking a piece of paper, beckoning me to look. There was a flash, and I saw a mark like this. She pointed eagerly to a pattern on the paper. We didn't even eat dinner and quickly went online to check. The symbol turned out to be for a hospital. Could it be a morgue? No, whose corpse could be kept so long without being cremated. The next day, I rushed to the hospital. When I saw the name Li Xiaolan on the list of inpatients, my heart couldn't help but skip a beat. I lied that I was an old classmate and begged the nurse to let me visit. When I saw the girl's face for the first time, I knew it was her. Because the appearance of the vegetative person in front of me was exactly the same as Xiaolan. They told me to lock the door and not go out. I agreed repeatedly, but my heart felt like it was being clutched by a cold little hand, and every second of waiting was unbearably agonizing. I specifically asked the doctor said that a vegetative person may regain their memory upon waking, or they may be like a newborn, having to learn everything from scratch. That was the reason why Xiaolan didn't know what to eat at the beginning. The real Li Xiaolan was a model, only 20 years old. She became a vegetative person due to a car accident and had been lying here for more than a year. The timeline matched up. As for why my silicone wife looked exactly like her, it was because the company that produced Xiaolan used her face as a template for design. As for the Peppa Pig song, it was a video that was constantly being played on a TV in the hospital room. Later, I managed to change it to a song she liked to listen to. From then on, every day after work, I would go to the hospital to see Xiaolan's real body, help her massage, clean the dirt off her body, and do whatever I could. That way, when Xiaolan's consciousness returns to this side, it might be a little easier for her. Once, I even had the doll Xiaolan wear a mask and gloves and go to the hospital with me to visit herself. Xiaolan's craftsmanship was so realistic that no one even realized she was just a doll along the way. At that time, seeing her own thin and emaciated appearance on the hospital bed, Xiaolan cried sadly on my shoulder. Well, that's the story of me and my silicone wife Xiaolan. I only hope that she can wake up from her real body soon, and then we can truly live happily together.